Well done, thank you all, and I think some good questions have been raised, there's some good oversight and some very sensible thinking. I'd like to warmly again thank Mark for his incredible work in this area and for the industry for their support. It's unbelievably appreciated. Thank you, team. Right, we'll move on. I'm going to suggest, or first of all, let's just check. It's 12:15. This is a reasonably full item.
I don't have to justify to my
However, the decision that we're being required to make here is actually a reasonably straightforward item. There's a lot of detail, but the decision is reasonably simple, if you know what I mean. It's one of these that we could burrow down into, or we could actually focus on what's required of us. So I'm going to suggest that we do this item and then break for lunch. There is an opportunity, as the local boards are briefed on the detail, to sit alongside your local boards and actually achieve the briefings that you may want, so that you can get the idea of exactly what's happening in your areas. Again, thank you, team. Over to you.
Right, good morning, councillors. The purpose of this report is twofold. Firstly, to provide you with a progress report on implementation of the Community Facilities Network Plan, and secondly, to seek agreement to report back to this committee with an indicative business case for investment in community facilities in the central west of Auckland. But firstly, I'll just provide a little bit of background around the network plan and why it's important. The Council has over 350 facilities that provide community, arts, library, aquatic and leisure services that we know are important to communities and to our local boards. Our facilities provide places where people can meet, connect, participate in a wide range of activities and learn new things. All of that contributes to improved health and well-being, a sense of identity and belonging in a community, and of course community pride. But as we know, Auckland's growing rapidly and the needs of our diverse communities are changing. And many of our facilities are actually ageing, some of them are no longer fit for purpose, and we have an ongoing demand for new facilities. All of this within a context of increasing financial constraint. So the Community Facilities Network Plan was developed and adopted in the last term of Council to help address those challenges by providing a strategic plan for how and why we provide and invest in community facilities. The overall goal of the plan is to provide strategically placed and integrated community facilities that respond to our growth and the community's diverse needs in a cost-effective way. The plan takes a regional network approach and provides a transparent mechanism to prioritise and address often competing demands across the region. And councillors, that's critical because, as you know, with the financial constraints, we can't possibly do everything or fund everything at once. And just maintaining and operating what we already have continues to be an ongoing challenge. So the network plan provides objectives and criteria to help council focus its activity and its resources and its investment. The plan is supported by an action plan that comprises some 121 actions, 50 of which are identified as priorities. Now, those priority actions were determined by criteria that we workshopped with councillors and local boards that are set out in the network plan and include factors such as the level of demand and size of a catchment, the projected growth and when that growth is happening, the timing of it, the condition of our existing facilities, and where there might be opportunities for optimisation. So in terms of progress, after a year, this report shows that we've made good progress over the last year. 82% of priority actions are either completed, underway, or planned to start this year. The report also provides some information around 3 key investigations that were taken in the last year in Manurewa, Papakura Takanini, and in the Central West area. This report highlights one significant provision gap that we've identified in this last year for your attention, councillors, and that is the need for multi-purpose space for aquatic, leisure and community services in the central west of the city. Now, this is the area that's covered by Avondale, New Lynn and parts of Mount Albert. Our work in this area has identified we need multi-purpose community space in Avondale, essentially to replace the existing community centre, which has major condition issues, and that we need space for aquatic and leisure in Faux, with the optimal location to serve the wider catchment being in New Lynn, and continued long-term aquatic provision in Mount Albert. And while there's some funding in the current long-term plan, approximately 11.6 million for community facilities in Faux, there's certainly no budget for additional aquatic provision. So consequently, the next step is to develop an indicative business case on the strategic and economic rationale for investment to meet the service and provision needs in the Central West. And that work will include options, cost-benefit analysis, and considering all the trade-offs that we might need to make. And this report, therefore, is seeking this committee's agreement to report back on that work in about July of this year. So finally, as I finish, just one thing to note, councillors, there's a lot of actions in the action plan, and we can't possibly cover in detail all of those. We've tried to provide a high-level summary of where things are at, but if councillors have specific questions around particular actions, we're more than happy to deal with those offline, if you like, outside of this meeting, and give you the detail that you need. Those actions are being delivered by a range of different parts of council, and I'm not over all of the detail, but certainly, as I said, if I can't answer specific questions, we'll certainly corral that information for you and provide it outside of this meeting. And I think after that, there's any other questions?
Councillor Cooper.
Sorry, it's just a question. Why are pools put under community facilities and not in sport? Where they sort of,
So
because it's not, we've got them in the community sport space as well, I think.
So the Community Facility Network Plan includes within its scope our aquatic and leisure facilities, libraries, community centres and halls, and our art centres.
Okay.
So sports facilities generally are the non-council, sports fields, other things, not aquatic facilities. They're within this plan.
Okay, yeah, I know, I see they are, well, some of them. Thank you.
And probably just one thing further to that, going forward, the intent of the plan is to have more multi-purpose facilities where we might have swimming pools alongside libraries, as we have in Otahu, and we're providing integrated community facilities that provide a range of things for our communities.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Councillor Filipaina, sorry,
Yep.
here he is. You're happy to
Yes.
move that? Okay. Is there someone who wishes to second that? And then we'll carry on with
I'll
questions.
second it.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Councillor Simpson.
Thank you. Quick question. So my understanding is that the 116 action points are going to be actioned and on the way, and you're sending this to the local boards, noting that some of them are new and they might not know. If a local board has a real strong feeling that something that's not on the action point should be in there, bearing in mind they're all, some of them are new, what do they do about that?
Well, obviously we'll certainly look at those and see how they fit and put them against the criteria within the network plan. So we're absolutely...
Explain that to them, will
Yes,
you?
absolutely. So we'll take them through the journey of this plan.
I think that's a really important point, Councillor Simpson. I think that's where some of the negotiation backwards and forwards will happen. Member Wilcox?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. I think I'll start off with the hard one first. I hear us talking about Mount Albert, and I'm not going to dismiss Mount Albert or say anything about that, but I was under the impression that we were also advocating for Massey, and the thing was that MAGS and us have a type of CCO, even on a limited scale, that already has a pool, whereas Massey has nothing.
That's right, and it's a
That's
huge
question
growth
one.
area.
Through, Madam Chair. We have on our work programme within the action plan an action to look at the northwest area of the city, which is, as you know, experiencing rapid growth. So we have identified a provisional gap in that area. So from Massey, Whanuapai, Kumeu, Hobsonville, that area of Auckland, we're aware that there's a potential provision gap, and we've got work that we're undertaking this year to look at that. So this is the plan is trying to take a regional approach. There are gaps across the region, and this helps us prioritise where we need to take action and investigate. So it's certainly on our work programme.
Okay. And secondly, I noticed the report going to the local boards. Does the IMSB get a copy of this, or is it meant to come through me?
That's a good question. I mean, we could circulate this to the IMSB if that's appropriate.
See.
So do I need to put it into C, or? I think we better, eh?
Done.
Done. Okay,
Through the
covered.
chair, we're happy for the IMSB to invite us to one of their meetings and, walk them through it.
That would be good.
Oh, talk to the
You can
secretary.
help liaise that, Member Wilcox.
Okay,
or
the
some-
secretariat, tēnā koutou.
Certainly engage with the IMSB on its development, the plan's development.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
those were questions. It's been moved and seconded. Does anyone wish to speak to the item? Councillor Filipaina?
I don't know, it's a bit premature around the advisory boards because I know the majority of them have done the interview process, but to include them as to getting this, because the Community Facilities Network, I think, would be a good document to be disseminated to the advisory boards as well.
So,
So I look
just
forward to a
to-
comment. Yep.
and yes, I guess just to push back a little bit, thinking
Yep.
about our advisory panels and what we're asking of them. I think when we send stuff to them, we need to say, what do you want them
What
to
for?
do?
Yes.
Is it a consultation process? Is it for feedback? Because picking up councillor Simpson's point, if the local boards are going to come back and say, well, hey, hang on a minute, where's our swimming pool for Massey? That's the local board issue. The concern I have is that we are raising expectations with our panels
Correct.
for them to redo the plan. And I think we ran into that problem in the last term, giving all this information to our panels and then not being able to act on it. And I think with the greatest of respect to our new panels, we need to, my preference would be that we're clear on what we want them to do with stuff before we send it to them. And I don't know why we would send it to them. I'm being provocative in saying that. What are we sending it to them for?
With the interviews that we, both Fisso and I went through, a lot of the comment from the people we interviewed was that sometimes we don't even hear what has an effect for them because we don't get them as an information to them, not for them to comment, because that'll be obviously one of the key things they'll be asked is, here's a documented draft, we want your comment. So that's the reason why I put it, is because through the interview process that we conducted, that was one of the key things that they actually wanted to find out, is that there are some policies and everything else that have been adopted, but they wanted it for the information. But I can only speak for the Pacific People's candidates that we interviewed.
Okay, I just think it feels like an important conversation we need to have so that we've got a more authentic relationship with our panels rather than this term simply having them there to shove things at and having them feeling frustrated about what they meant to do with the stuff that's shoved at them. You know, I'm being a bit direct, but
Yep.
I think, Councillor Filipaina, you raise a really valid point. I'd like us to have an honest discussion about how we get our panels to relate to our local boards and then to the committees. So whilst I understand your point, can we actually just tie-ho until we understand exactly what the expectations of our panels are?
Okay.
It may well be that we do send this to the panels, but I may be overthinking this. Please challenge me if I am. Councillor Cooper.
Madam Chair, I don't think you're overthinking it. I mean, I've been interviewing for the seniors panel, and it's very clear that this is about them bringing their wisdom, their views to us to help us shape policy. This is a plan, this is not policy. And also, a lot of them said to us they were quite concerned that we had an expectation on them to go out and to consult. It was too much for them. They weren't, that is not the role, and they don't want it to be that role. So I think that we've just got to be careful. This is not a public consultation. This is between us and the local boards now, and so I think that that's a different role. This is a different kind of process. So I'm concerned too. You know, we want to develop the work plans for our advisory panels, but I don't think it should involve, and it's not the expectation of people I've been interviewing that they go out to the public to try and gather, you know, it's too much of a burden to put on people. So I'm very happy with the process we're doing now. These will affect local areas, so this is entirely appropriate for local boards to deal with this. If they want to seek a particular panel's view, you know, if in a particular area, I mean, maybe that's what the local boards could do. But I think this is just, the way we're doing it now is the right way. Thank you.
Councillor Kibb, I think that's you've crystallised the worry that I've had in my head. The discussion with the panels would be, have we got the settings on the policy correct for the Pacific community, for the older adult community, for the rainbow community? Are our policy settings correct? And that, to me, feels like the conversation that we need to have directly with those panels. I mean, this can be circulated far and wide for everybody's information, but it's the expectation we have sending this to the panel that needs to be honest and authentic.
Correct.
Are we expecting them to go out and consult? No. Are we expecting them to give us feedback? Actually, no, we're not. So I'm just striving in this term to be honest, clear, and a little bit more
Chair, that's
real.
why the last three words were the ones, and it wasn't about getting their view. It was
Yeah.
for their information.
And
I
if
mean,
we-
this is why it's going to the local boards for their information,
More than
to the Independent Māori Statutory Board for their information, and I'm only going by with the interviews we had. But it's not to gain any comment or to go out to their communities, but
The reality is, and at the risk of carrying on, it's going to local boards actually for their feedback,
Exactly.
their input and their discussion. It's going to the panels for just simply their information. So that's why we're making a
should clarify that.
differentiation between the two.